Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem of my Blitz game number 332. I was white here and kicked off with c4, the English opening, and we get into the reverse Sicilian flavor of the English, where my opponent plays e5 right away. Come out with knight c3, a normal move, trying to set up a bind on the light squares here. Now bishop b4, a bit of an unusual way to play. Normally a knight move here. Let's back up. Back up a move. Normally there's a knight move here, knight f6, knight c6, or d6, just setting up this little pawn wall here. But bishop b4 gets the bishop out ahead of the playing a move like d6. And I can't prevent white from doubling the pawns. Well, I guess I could try, take that back. I could play a move like queen c2 or queen b3. Choices 3 and 4 here. But it looks like it's okay to play the way I did with knight to g3, to pawn to g3. Knight to d5 is an interesting way to play. Should have thought of this. I was just talking about a similar variation in the Sicilian, where you just develop this knight right away, kicking the bishop. And where does the bishop go? You can drop back to e7, go to c5, go to a5. I don't know, this knight looks a little bit funny here, but the bishop will move, and then after that, just keep developing, I guess. Anyway, that's a different way to play. I played g3 and allowed him to take, which he did. And took back with the b pawn, trying to keep more center influence. It's a trade-off. Sometimes you want to take back with the d pawn just so you have more center influence with the piece, with the pieces, like the queen. On this half-open file might be useful at some point. But having center influence with the pawns can't be too bad. So d6 is a normal move here. My opponent played d5. Very interesting move here. And I took it. So we're out of the opening book here. I was really worried about this line because after pawn takes, queen takes, it's hitting my rook in the corner, which is undefended. And after knight to f3 here, he can play e4, kick the knight, and then push the pawn forward with a tempo. But when I checked this out with the chess engine, it says, just don't be afraid. Well, first of all, top choice here is just to ignore the threat to the pawn and play bishop g2. So let's check this out first. He can grab the pawn, and then I have the check to pick up the pawn. I guess this is okay. So that's probably the best way to play. Second choice here is to take it, which is what I did. So this is the game, queen takes, and then play knight f3. This is a move I was thinking about, but decided against. So I was worried about this continuation where he plays e4. I have to move the knight, and then he can play e3 here, hitting my rook. But now I can play the move f3, and I guess this is just okay. He can keep taking. He's going to lose his pawn if he does nothing. So take, queen takes, and I guess well, it's a funny-looking position, but I guess it's okay for white. The engine seems to like it. So anyway, I got into this funny-looking position without having developed my knight. So it's much worse, actually. After c takes d5, queen takes d5, I played f3 immediately. And the reason it's worse is because I don't have a reasonable way to develop this knight. I can come here, I guess, and it just gets traded, perhaps, or maybe it comes around to f2. But the normal knight f3 has been taken away by the pawn move, and it gets into an interesting game where black has a slight edge through most of this. I think the engine thinks I'm still doing okay here. Let's see, knight f6, queen b3. Maybe this wasn't an accurate move. It says if we back up here, e4. I should be playing e4 here. I thought e4 did not work, actually. I was thinking about e4. It's a natural move and a logical continuation. I thought he could just take it, though. Oh, I guess this is bad because it's a pin. So now I'm threatening to play the move d6 here. Although queen c2, d3, yeah, these are all good moves. d3, queen c2. Okay, so I could have played e4 there. Tactically, it's justified. Instead I played queen b3, he castled, and I decided to trade off the queens, and so this position, and then get an e4. So this position is still about even. Somehow I get into trouble here in a bit. Knight to b6. Knight to f3. It's logical developing moves. This can't be all that bad, right? d3 I should play here. Okay, I castle instead. So castling gets me into trouble. Interesting, because of bishop g4, which is what he played. And bishop b2 makes the trouble worse. Yeah, okay, so bishop b2 was really, I was still, if we back up, was still about an even game at this point. So bishop b2 is really the losing move here, or the move that should cost me the game, because I simply overlooked that he has knight c4, and I don't have any good move here. I have to go back and defend the pawn. So complete waste of 2 moves, and he gets a nice developing move in. So now I'm struggling a bit. I played rook a... No, he played rook a to d8. Just putting pressure. Yeah, he's got a backwards pawn he can target. And I defend it with rook f2, a very funny looking move, but yeah, it's one of the computer choices, so I guess you gotta play what you gotta play. But it's clear that I'm in trouble and struggling at this position. So I kick the bishop, trying to alleviate some of the pressure, but he takes. And then plays a5. So I go on with a3. My idea is to bring this other rook up and release some of my pieces, maybe even get in the move d3 is what I really want to get in. So I want to get the bishop around and be able to play d3, but I can't move the bishop without losing a pawn, because he'll trade off my rook and then just grab the pawn here. So it's a struggle. He plays rook to d3, just sitting on that and sitting on the pawn and threatening my bishop. And now I play, I could have played king g2. I went bishop e2, which is still okay, but I kind of overlooked that he's just taking here with check, get out of the way. And then he didn't take the rook here. I was expecting him just to grab the rook. Instead, he played, oh no, he did. He took the rook, okay. Takes f2, king takes f2, takes h3, and now I go... Notice now suddenly the evaluation has shifted in favor of white. This is the tactic I was referring to. So if you want to pause the video and see if you can spot the tactic, what is white's best move here? Well, it's king g2. So let's follow this through. What's interesting about this, so I didn't play this, and I had the opportunity to play this several times. What's funny about this is that the rook has nowhere to go. Look at it. He's got all these squares, and they all have a drawback of some kind or other. This pawn is defended. The bishop is covering these squares. The pawn is covering that square. King is covering these squares. So, okay, nothing doing on this row. So here the king is covering that square. But he's got, here, let's erase these highlights. It seems like, and the bishop is covering this square. It seems like he could go to one of these dark-colored squares. So, first of all, let's rule out this one. It's simplest. You can just push the pawn here, right? Oh, he gets rook g6. What's the threat here if he goes there? Then the threat is a4. I was thinking that's a double attack, but he can escape with check. a4. He can play the check. And then the knight moves. Knight d8. Okay. And then ab. And then this knight moves. Knight to b6. Ah, okay, so I pick up a pawn that way, 2 pawns, and get out of trouble. That's fascinating. So it's a combination of king g2 and of course the same thing would happen with rook h4. Oh, with rook h4 now this d3 works. d3 kicking the knight. Knight goes to d6. Bishop to g5. Hitting the rook, and finally I have dropped the rook. Okay, so rook h4 was a rook trap, and rook h6 was not a rook trap, but it was tactics against the pawn on the queen side. It's okay, so it was not quite as simple a tactic as I thought, but you might play king g2 as kind of a natural move to harass that rook. Anyway, I didn't play that. I played this move to kick the knight. And now he can play rook h2 check to get out of trouble. But instead he drops the knight back. And so once again I have this king g2 tactic. But I was going after his weak pawns over here. And finally at this point the tactic isn't there anymore, because now if I play king g2, he can escape with rook takes d3. I guess that gives up the exchange, but he's won so many pawns, he's in good shape here. Anyway, I was ignoring the threat to I was ignoring the threat to the d pawn here. I should have played bishop to e3, I suppose. Anyway, I played bishop to d2 because I was thinking about going after these pawns here and getting my a pawn going. And so he went, grabbed another pawn, and he should just be totally winning here. So now I play king e2, harassing his rook a bit. And he's got to move. He goes rook to d4. But that's a good move. He's going after my my isolated pawns here. This one at least has defended the a pawn, but I don't have a great way to defend the d pawn. I went bishop to c3, trying to get some counterplay against his pawns. So he grabs a check. I move my king to f3, hitting his rook, and he plays c5. So you can see at this point he's just completely winning. So a series of bad moves have landed me in trouble. But the game is still not over. I keep playing. I keep playing. I guess I could have resigned in a good conscience. But you never know what's going to happen. So he's pushing his pawns. This is all very logical. I get my bishop out of the way and cancel that. I went to c7. Okay, I went to hit his knight and maybe grab this pawn. And he plays knight f5 check. He's still okay here. Engine approves of this. I drop back. Knight e3 check. If he would just repeat moves, I would settle for the draw here, because black is certainly better. But he decided not to repeat and went with rook e4. And he starts to set up this configuration. Knight e3 check. Yeah, that's the losing move for black. So I played a losing move earlier, but black didn't quite finish me off. And this is a very unfortunate configuration of rook and knight. The rook is defending the knight. But the rook can be attacked with king f3, and it's a fork. It's attacking the rook, it's attacking the knight, and the rook, if you could defend the rook here, it would all be okay, but the rook can't be defended. The knight can't move to defend the rook, and there's no pawns around. The king is too far away. So the rook just needs to move, and then he loses a piece. So that's probably rook to f4 check and king takes knight is the best way to play. He tried something interesting. He tried to counterattack my rook. So I grab his rook. He attacks my rook. And now this is a case where your calculation skills in the endgame are very important, because this is just easily losing because I win the pawn race. And it's not too difficult to calculate. You just have to count. I take the rook. He takes the rook. I push the pawn. The knight goes here. I push the pawn again. The knight goes here. And I queen. So the knight can't get back in time to stop me from queening that pawn. So he really can't take the rook. So this threat was an empty threat. And I took the rook, of course, and then he took my rook, and I started pushing the pawn. And here, okay, he tried to do the race another way by pushing his pawn, but I'm one step closer, and I queen with check, which is very important in these situations, because when you queen with check, it gives you that extra tempo you need to get back and stop this pawn from becoming a queen. And looks like queen d5 check. Yeah, it looks like I can just go directly for the mate. But anyway, the simplest way to play this is just to grab the knight and prevent this pawn from queening. So he resigned here, and hope you guys enjoyed this more than I did. It was kind of a miserable game, but some interesting tactics, and maybe I'll play that opening better next time. See you guys soon. Bye.